a young guy named Timoy Satishim felt incredible lightness and peace. It seemed that the bright light sounded his soul, warming from the inside. He felt unusual harmony and tried to understand where he was, because there was nothing like this in his everyday life of an office worker. Then Tamo remembered horror, how he was knocked down at a frantic speed when he tried to cross the road. Undoubtedly, after such an accident, he would have to die. But how is it possible? His arms and legs were in place, and a cheap suit had no damaged thread at all. Tamoy wondered if he was really dead, and it was just the last illusion before nothing. Suddenly, a bright light broke out nearby, which actually scared the office clerk. In his eyes, a girl whose beauty was so unearth appeared that she resembled the goddess. The stranger immediately asked if he was really called Tamo as a jerk. The guy was embarrassed, and just confirmed. After that, the girl began to move in a strange way, as if she did a ritual. But there was incredible. The wonderful stranger suddenly fainted, falling to the ground and began to sob, repeating the words of apology. The surprised Tomoy could not understand what was happening, and this made the situation even more frightening. The girl apologized with all sincerity and admitted that she did not even know how to ask. Then, it is unclear why, she asked, "Is Tomoy's hungry?" The guy thought that something was wrong with her and decided to find out the reason. Tomoy asked why she was constantly apologizing and what was happening at all. The stranger asked several times, promised to explain everything, and suggested to sit at a table for a quiet conversation. Having quickly poured fragrant and warming tea, she explained that she is one of the goddesses who control other worlds, and in general is called the goddess of the universe. During the conversation, she told Tama that he was really dead now, although at his age it should not happen. There was a gross leadership error for which the responsible god was already sentenced to exile in hell. The goddess of the universe felt that she made the greatest effort to correct the mistake and return Tama. But she realized that it could destroy the cosmic balance and cause a catastrophe. Tomoy did not worry about divine details and just asked if he could return home. The goddess only shook her head. Mine could not understand that he had been more angry. The awareness of what had happened, whether the peace of the goddess is unwavering. He exclaimed how he understands all this at all. He asked how much time he would have to wait to return home. The calm blonde answered without hesitation. The expectation will last about 400 years and there is nothing urgent. Thalamoya was indignant that it was an eternity, and why the number of years is so great. However, the goddess of the universe tried to reassure him, explaining, now that the Thalami has already died, the time for him is much faster for him. Talamoy categorically demanded from the goddess to create something for him, because he had no desire to stay dead and wait for hundreds of years. The girl assured that she could help him, so Talamoy could not worry. The goddess of creation explained that it would be able to revive for my completely new world, without losing many years. The young man decided to immediately clarify what she meant. The strange goddess explained that it meant reincarnation, after which Tamo would get into the fantastic world. There, people will be able to live according to their abilities, which depend on their statuses, and strength and level will become important characteristics. The goddess reported that Tomoya's native world was on the verge of destruction, and asked if he would be happy, realizing her return to the almost dead world. She suggested sending an employee to a healthier world, which differs thousands of years from the place of residence of Tomoya. In this new world, the level of culture will be much lower than on Earth. However, thanks to the divine forces, Tomoya has received special abilities that will protect it from dangers in foreign lands. Tomoya decided that such an insurance stock would be very useful. In general, his life passed without much achievement. But the divine rule of the universe enlightened the young man. If he had not died so tragically, he would have won 1 billion yuan in the lottery in 3 days. After this event, Tamo could become almost the richest millionaire in history, get a personal harem, and live up to 150 years. From that thought, Tamoy wept, because it was the life that he always dreamed of. The upset Tamo decided that he had no choice, and probably should agree to the proposal of the goddess of the universe. The extraordinary goddess reacted happily and offered to start immediately. Samoy asked to wait a little. The guy was surprised why this special goddess was in a hurry. She wants him to be reborn as soon as possible and leave her. Tomoe asked with anger what the goddess of creation really hides from him. After all, this strange feeling of deception persistently pursued him. The world goddess, barely holding back shaking in her voice, replied that she did not understand what Tamo was saying. Her reaction expressed insincerity, and so Tomoya asked what was really going on here. The goddess of the universe again began to repeat her apologies for the situation, which only emphasized she clearly hides something. It looked very strange. The young goddess said that the degeneration into the new world has been taking place every 1,000 years, and in this world for more than half a century has been continuous. As a result, the king of demon has repeatedly invaded human lands, devastating them to the reign. Tomoya asked if he realized that the goddess of creation was responsible for the creation of this fantastic world. And his guess was true. The goddess confirmed it. The magic of the universe explained that the intervention of the supreme god in any world would destroy the cosmic balance. But if she remains aside, her beloved world will die. Therefore, the goddess turns to Tomoya for help. An experienced office worker often encountered deception and perceives this request skeptical. In the end, Tomoya realized that he had no other way out, and promised to help the goddess of the universe. The girl thanked in advance and explained that she would give him the incredible abilities of deception. To do this, it should stand on one knee for a few seconds. The guy immediately fulfilled the unusual request of the goddess. At that moment, the young goddess suddenly stuck the mouth into the lips of the young man. After an unexpected kiss, the goddess of the universe noted that Tomoya's lips are extremely soft and sweet. Tomoya himself was stunned, asking why she did so and why suddenly changed. The goddess of the universe remembered her desire to give Tomoya the abilities of a fraudster, and now, after a magical kiss, he has become one of the strongest people in the world. With his newness power, Tomoya can easily save this fantastic world from the king of demons. The goddess of creation recognized that he knew about Tomoya's innocence and that it was his first real kiss. The guy immediately became discouraged and ineptly assured that he had repeatedly kissed. Tomoya wondered if she finished passing on fraudulent skills and, if so, whether it was worth moving forward faster. The goddess of the universe agreed to continue his studies and advised my word, status. The surprised guy immediately repeated the right word, and a translucent screen appeared in front of his face. Everything looked almost like a regular computer game. The divine creativity explained that this status menu reflects health and magic points that are spent on special skills. Under normal conditions, a person gets a little experience, but Tima's body copes with this 10 times better, and there is a certain deception in this process. The goddess of creation said that Tomoya received a special blessing from her. With his help, he gained experience 10 times faster. It is also capable of absorbing, copying skills and magic, and they are automatically determined. And when his vitality is reduced below 30%, his power increases by 25. Due to the ability to detect, he can completely invisibly recognize the ability of others. Mai realized that with such an incredible set of abilities, he should not have any problems, and the divine blessing makes him incredibly powerful. The girl of God confirmed my uniqueness and admitted that it is the best explanation that she can give in this situation. However, Tomoya was interested in whether it is not all a disorderly phenomenon. The Viados of the universe quickly changed the topic, advising him to prepare immediately for the Renaissance. Tomoya did not argue and agreed to continue the process. The clerk wondered if there were any secrets left to know immediately. But the girl who embodies the goddess of the universe was just laughing. And so the goddess of creation opened the magic portal, through which Tomoya fell. The guy tried to ask something else, but the goddess of the universe only wished him good luck. The cry of Tomoya broke far around. The goddess of the universe suddenly remembered that she forgot to report something important. But unfortunately, it was too late. A few hours later, chaos and clutter prevailed in a small village. With the gesture orcs that prevailed over the defeated village, civilians became defenseless victims. Meanwhile, the detachment commander ordered not to kill the head of the army, but to urgently deliver it to the square in the center of the settlement. The giant orc, which was the general, headed the attack, and by order of all the women who managed to find was assembled on the square. His subordinates wondered why women were not killed, as they did with others. But the sneaky orc confessed that he needs new children and has weakness to feminine beauty. Among the prisoners, a young girl named Lucia, a representative of the White Wolves, asked why they treated them so cruelly. Lucia was always proud of the power of its people, but the traitors of the Orca treacherously attacked the settlement, easily killing her brother, and she was too weak to defend herself. Meanwhile, the terrible General Orkiv chose his first victim among local girls. She begged for help, asked not to touch, but it only increased the pleasure of the bloodthirsty. However, Lucia gathered all her courage and rushed to rescue. The wolf tried to attack the February orca, but the general could easily avoid the unsuccessful Lugal Lumina Kidka, and her blow passed. Having lost balance, the girl fell to the ground, being in an extremely disadvantageous position before a dangerous enemy. The general instantly focused on Lucia and grabbed her leg. Orc acknowledged Lucia's speed, but noted that she should hide her aura during the attack. At the same time, the general was quite surprised that he was a representative of the rack of white wolves. Lucia desperately resisted the attacks of Hugh Jorn, but the general had already felt a thirst for enrichment and saw how to benefit from it. He was annoyed by her noise, though he believed that she would be a great complement to his flock of dog. The insidious leader of the orcs with an abusive smile reported that he had already chosen the victim, giving the rest of the women his subordinates. This generous solution caused enthusiastic exclamations of support from the entire detachment, but immersed in the eyes of enslaved girls' horror and anxiety. Watching what was happening, Tamo decided that the terrifying monsters would not be able to have fun, because he intends to destroy all demons of this world. The lightning attack caught a detachment of orcs by surprise, and soon the newly emerged heroes significantly reduced their numbers. Many orcs did not even have time to realize what had happened and were immediately destroyed. No less than the orcs was a surprised wolf girl Lucia, who had already lost hope for salvation and was preparing for the worst. But like a real hero, Tomoe assured that now everything will be good, and there is no reason. Tomoe reassured the girl, assuring that she could consider him as an ally. At the same time, the orcs demanded that the guy name himself. However, the outraged Timoa decided that there was no point in specifying their name to those who would not survive. The rest of the angry orcs did not invent anything better than immediately attack the daring stranger, and the head was heading towards their death. Tamawar prevented the attack with a lightning blow, and then a quick movement of the orca head. Tomoe sent the second orca after his relative, surprised that there was a slight blow to crush the skull of the monster. All this really confirmed that he got into the fantasy world, inhabited by horrible monsters. General Orkiv ordered the subordinates to stay on the ground and not to go into the melee with a stranger. A derivated orc stated that Timoe should not be happy only because he could kill several of his soldiers. Armed with a huge axe, the orc general decided to personally deal with a daring guy. Tomoe wondered what level this giant could be, because he made his power. Using the skill to show the truth, Timoe found that the combat force of General Orcs was 550 units. Now it became clear how it was the orc prohibition that determined the level of danger after Tomoya muted his power. In fact, Tomoya deliberately reduced her visible level to avoid unnecessary problems. That is why General Orkiv was so convinced of his ability to easily deal with a brazen young man, and his ability to overcome several soldiers. The general rode off for a simple attitude. Timoy was convinced of his own strength and ready to easily defeat a huge and fierce enemy. To do this, he activated the artificial intelligence of Isis. To annoy the orcs, he called them dirty pigs, and this move worked. A monster known for their cruelty, and were provoked. Several of the most entertaining orcs were the first to feel the sword's deadly strike. The power of the impact was so huge that some literally spread in half. Such a skill in the possession of a weapon stunned the rest of the orcs. General Orcs, covered by a wave of uncontrollable anger, ordered his ward to attack Tam. A fiery and icy spears, a lightning spear and a breeze blade flew on the young hero on all sides. However, Timoy did not worry about possible damage, because he activated the goddess of creation that blessed the world. Her forces allowed to automatically absorb any magic. The status menu reported successful magic absorption. Meanwhile, Timoy noted that the number of magical attributes he could use had increased. The abilities were added to the existing: Ice Coffin, Ice, Electric Ball, Lightning Cannon and Cyclone Wind. After reflecting the magical attack of orcs, Tomoya calmly asked if they had some surprises for him. The next moment, Tomoya decided to test his new attribute and applied the magic of the wind cycle. The incredible force literally swept the heavy bodies of the fierce monsters, causing them significant damage. Tomoya was amazed at the incredible power of high-level magic, and realized that with such powerful skills, he could feel completely protected. The York general raised his voice on his advisor, who insisted on the weakness of the young hero. The frightened advisor began to justify himself, claiming that he was finally convinced of the younger's ability to manifest himself at a much higher level. General Orkiv ordered him to immediately determine the true level of the young man, and explain what power he had. The frightened magician did this time correctly. and told the truth. The leader of the orcs raged because it was at this moment that Tamo continued to destroy his detachment. The general demanded an immediate response from the magician and to sound clearly. Finally, the magician confessed, not believing to himself that the fighting power of the young hero is 220,000. Thus, the power of the young hero was majestic, because his ability to make such a large-scale change was exactly 220,000 units. The orcs were amazed at this discovery, because it seemed incredible to the ordinary person. Tomoe addressed the combat artifact to the question of why he showed his true force. It turned out that it was done in order for the opponents to plunge into complete despair. New York really began to tremble with fear without realizing how such a powerful person can exist at all. In battle with him, no one could match him. But General Orkiv strongly restrained himself, trying not to panic. The general noted that they have not yet played their main trump card, and that was interested in Moa. Isida suggested that the orcs are most likely to use a call spell. Moa thought whether they should be stopped. The artificial intelligence for battles explained that compared to the Emperor of the Holy Mountain, whom they recently destroyed, all other opponents were only unsuccessful garbage. In this way, she reported as she again reduced Tima's level so that the saved woman did not know the true power of the hero. Timoy liked this predictable solution, because the ISIS really solved many important problems. Meanwhile, General Orkiv has summoned the darkness of the zombie dragon, convinced that this powerful creature could overcome Tama. With a flame outbreak, a huge cyclops zombie dragon with a force of 6,400 units emerged. The OGR Wash triumphantly exclaimed, promising my fast end and turning into a living dead. The artificial intelligence of Jasa explained that it was the extinct type of dragon that disappeared 5,000 years ago. But animated as a zombie, this dragon will become several times stronger than the usual. Tamo thought about his own forces, because this horrible zombie draken looked like a terrible opponent. Suddenly, the zombie draken tied and quenched, forcing Tama to think about what was happening to him. Isis explained that thanks to Tamo's ability to control the dragons, he was able to fully overcome control over the custom being. The guy was surprised that this ability also affects the zombie. He asked the dragon what he planned to do next and whether he would actually overcome his master. The dragon proved to be obedient creatures and effortlessly obeyed the magic of Tomoya's control. In a moment, the zombie dragon attacked nothing suspicious orcs. The frightened orcs tried to convince the zombie dragon that they were not his enemies and wanted to escape. However, the grand winged beast focused all its attention on them. Due to their irreversibility of the orca, they did not have time to dodge the rapid attacks of the zombie drakon. The mighty beast literally crushed the frightened warriors with his paws and continued hunting. Watching this, Tamoe realized that the events are catastrophic. The awakening of this dangerous monster may be fatal, so it is better to return to another world. Samaya launched the reversal process to finally destroy the zombie dragon. Meanwhile, the general, whom some miracle managed to escape, tried to understand what had just happened, because he did not expect such a turn at all. After that, the hero Tomoya decided to draw the final attack of the Orca General, and pulled out his sword. But at this point, the girls suddenly asked him to stop, which caused a surprise to the boy. Husha and other rescued girls declared their desire to personally destroy the Orca. Timoes, understanding their anger, decided to give them the opportunity to take revenge. Timos got a whole collection of a variety of weapons from their magical hiding place, so that girls could choose what they like more. Tamo noticed the confusion of women and encouraged them to choose what they had liked, preventing them from being careful not to be injured. Meanwhile, General Orkiv realized his future suffering and began to be pleased with the mercy. All the pleas of the orcs were ignored, and above all the girl struck, followed by other offended women. The general observation of the act of revenge was accompanied by advice so that Lucia would lag behind others. Lucia felt self-doubt, and Tamo advised her to take a regular short sword. Feeling the weight of the metal in her hand, the girl suddenly flashed with righteous anger, seeking to take revenge for her brother's death. After Lucia killed the Orca General, Timoya decided to burn all the bodies of abominable creatures in one place. The young guy noticed how upset Lucia was. She was angry, but the murder was difficult for her. Timoya apologized for giving her a weapon, because it would be better if he had finished everything. Люсія подякувала за порятунок міста і зауважила, що все інше не має великого значення, адже без допомоги Тімої вони б усі загинули. After that, the excited girl invited the heroine to stay overnight in the settlement. Suddenly, Tomoe noticed how much Lucia resembles the girl who died in a car crash. It was amazing. Mouse looked carefully in Lucia's face, so close that he even made her a little bent. Tomoe explained Lucia that she was very similar to his acquaintance, which, unfortunately, died more than 10 years ago. After that, the mysterious hero decided to relax. But suddenly Lucia turned to him as Moe and asked to wait. It was immediately mentioned by his tragically killed girlfriend, because only she called him so in his past life. Full of excitement, Tomoe asked if it was really Sayak. Finally, the girl acknowledged that she was, though she did not doubt whether she was standing in front of her. Looking at his longtime friend, he was still hesitant, because now she had wolf ears and tail. Aka asked if Tomoe was pleased with their meeting and forgot her. The guy confessed that it all looks very strange, and he did not hope for one. The girl just laughed back and explained that, like she was also degenerated. Sayaka looked sadly at a friend and asked if he died just like her, because it was only so that you could get into this fantasy world. Tomoe confessed in his death and offered to continue the conversation elsewhere. Sayaka immediately noticed how much he grew up, because during their last meeting he was much lower. Tomoe also drew attention to the changes in the girl. She not only became higher, but also significantly improved. Former friends moved to the cozy Lucia's hut and plunged into a sweet conversation. The girl was overwhelmed with admiration and asked if the young man was really the same Tomoe she knew in her past life. Tomoe assured that there could be no mistakes. They have really been known in the past life, although 15 years have passed since then. Lucius noted that Tomoe has almost never changed during the years, and it has raised doubts because he still looks young, just as in the old days. However, Tomoe denied that he was very young and acknowledged that he was 41 years old. But Lucia insisted and suggested that he be a good boy. She advised to look in the mirror to understand what it was. Tomoe was extremely surprised, because from the mirror he looked at him a younger and more attractive version of him. It would seem that during these years, his appearance has changed little. It all looked like a visual filter, but it was a reality. Tomoe decided that his appearance was not so important, and asked in Lucia as she got into this fantastic world and why it looks so in a dog. Lucia explained that she belongs to the wolves, not the dogs, and does not remember very much how she was here, because the memories of her past life returned to her only later. At the beginning of this life, Lucia was adopted by a strange family, because she found herself in the body of a small orphan. Her real parents remain a mystery, but this new family was so friendly that she already considers them her relatives. Sayaka said that when she appeared in this world with her memories, she felt in the new body of Lucia. This is how her new life adventure began. The girl shared that, unfortunately, the loss touched 3 members of her family. They were good for her, gave the comfort and warmth of the family hearth. Lumina appealed to Tomoe to tell him how he got into this world. Despite the desire to keep the secrets of his past, he realized that there was almost no choice. Tomoe confessed that it was his first day in this new world. Lucia was amazed, because it was not agreed with the tremendous power he had. The guy explained that he was suddenly near this village, so he could intervene and help. The girl asked about the future plans of Tomoe. He replied that he had a special purpose, and therefore would travel until he reaches it. Lucia immediately explained that the locals could no longer stay here and asked them to accompany them to the nearest city. She noted that the trip would last for at least a month, and women will not be able to get to the city on their own. Lucia said that the animal, though strong enough to cope with monsters, cannot withstand bandits. The road to the city is dangerous, and without protection, they will have to be difficult. Meanwhile, the animal is forced to hunt wild animals, because in the forest around it is a danger. Lucia confesses that she likes this village extremely. She considers him her home. Therefore, she seeks to save all the inhabitants of this place. Lucia promised to reward Tamiya if he accompanied the local to the city. The guy did not quite understand what award was discussed, but Lucia immediately explained that she would be the reward for Tomoe, because she is ready to be a true slave for her master. Tomoe did not even imagine that everything would turn into this way, and in surprise, she asked how Lucius could offer it at all. However, the girl did not give any explanation, but instead, she only gently kissed her defender. The unexpected action of the girl forced Tamiya to suddenly turn red, and he barely resisted not to run out of the room. However, Lucia explained that she has been 28 years old, which makes her an adult woman, so she feels other, not friendly feelings for him, but sees her husband. Tomoe was not too pleased with this discovery, and reminded the girl that such a step was extremely responsible if she really wanted to be together. At the same time, the guy thought that it would be impolite to simply refuse such a beautiful girl at her desire. Tomoe realized that his every act would significantly affect Lucia, so now he was faced with a difficult choice. Finally, the nervous guy said that he could not accept such an offer from Lucia. He explained that he did not seek closeness without obligations, although in fact he really liked it now and liked in his past life. However, Lucia was not going to give up and suggested that my wife become my wife. At the same time, she looked as if she was waiting for this moment all her life. Lucio assured that she would inevitably become a worthy wife for Tama. After all, she knows everything about him, even the smallest details, because she read his diary. Lucia told how she learned about the preferences of Tomoya, thanks to a diary. What girls do he like, and how he dreams of a common future. And she learned about his secret desires. The young hero was more ashamed than he was angry, saying that everything in the diary was just stupid fantasies. Lucia decided to continue the conversation with Frank, and admitted that she shares the same admiration as Timo. That is why she wants to be near, serve him as his defender, and call him a loved one and loving husband. Timo, immersed in embarrassment, could not find a place to think about how strange it looks. But later, Tomoa guessed that thanks to his specific abilities, donated by the goddess of the universe, Lucia seeks to become his slave. It was the ability of the alpha male, which allowed him to seduce and attract girls as much as possible. Tomoe asked if Lucia really wanted to become his slave and obey all his orders. The girl silently confirmed her intention, and immediately there was a message about the capture of Lucia's semi-sound. To the surprise of Tomoya, he realized that at this moment he was experiencing an incredible feeling of bliss, which at the same time feels Lucia. Their emotions and feelings merge into one due to its ability. Immediately, there was a message about the acquisition of passive spiritual communication skills. Thanks to this skill, the number of slave experience has doubled. Tomoe felt his strength due to his closeness. He wondered if these pleasant feelings arise only because of his ability. Now Tomoe realized that he was no longer a sweet girl, which she was before, but became a mature and open woman. Lucia, full of happiness, confessed that she always dreamed of uniting with Tomoe, and was convinced that their future was inextricably linked. After that, Tamo again received a message about the immediate activation of the blessing of the goddess of creation. Then a special skill was acquired, useful seeds, which increased the characteristics of the rabbi by 1%. Tamoe was as happy as the relentless Lucius, and it seemed that their first night stretched all the eternity. This night seemed the most beautiful in his life. After all, it was his first experience of closeness to the woman, and moreover, he spent in arms all night. Having spent the night next to Lucy, Timoy gained a unique skill that improved his essence. This ability increased the basic properties of slaves by 1% and controlled the fertilization process, turning seeds into energy. This was reminiscent of magical contraception, depriving Tima concerns about the consequences of closeness. The customs of the New World were struck by Amini, but even so, he was glad that Lucia had a slave. Even more pleased with the fact that the girl chose this path and got a special ability. Tamoe did not assume that his first night in this world could be so exciting. The night was extremely. He could not even imagine that it could happen to him. Now this trip to the fantastic world will remain in his memory forever. The first trip should always be special and memorable. So Timoy was extremely happy, because in his case everything went perfectly. For the first time, Timoy has suddenly encountered an attack of a flying monster. Of course it scared him because in his past life he did not deal with aggressive dragons that tried to eat it. While trying to escape from the winged dragon, Mai suddenly slipped and whistled to the ground. With painful landing, he realized that everything was flooded around. Each second strengthened the tension, and the fierce beast was already approaching. Timoya, feverishly trying to find a way out, automatically turned to the Lord for help. The strange voice responded unexpectedly. He reported successful establishment of the blessing of the goddess of creation, and began to collect information for the master. The mysterious voice reported an emergency, activated protective systems, and restored mental processes. At the same time, maximum damage, physical strength, magical abilities, and survival of Timoy have increased. The voice confirmed the readiness of the necessary skills and completion of forced activation. Meanwhile, the volatile dragon decided to end the victim and launched a fire attack. At that moment, Timoy remembered several events from the past, but surprisingly, The fire did not burn him. Everything turned unexpectedly. The dragon was defeated and now lay on the ground. A nice female voice reported that the defense system had worked, reflecting the dragon's attack. Encouraged by the desire of revenge, Tamo hastily attacked a devoured monster. However, the invisible advisor reported 0 level and start processing. Soon the same pleasant voice activated the skill of the attack. A double blow, and an aura of the sword appeared around Tamo's arm. But at that moment, the flying demon recovered and tried to remedy the difficult situation. Tomoe, passionate about the study of new skills, did not expect such a sudden movement of the dragon. So voice announced the forced activation of analysis skills. Within a few seconds, the analysis skill issued the result, pointing to the weak place of the flying monster. Without losing the opportunity, Tomoe decided to take a chance and break through the dragon. Having gained the right speed, Tomoe proved himself as an experienced warrior and caused one accurate and decisive blow. Fortunately for the young hero, the blow hit the point that his virtual advisor pointed out. However, despite all the power and accuracy of the impact, it was not enough for a complete triumph. But the system immediately worked, activating the maximum level of damage. In the end, the extra harm completed the work, and the winged monster issued the last cry. Tomoe did not immediately believe in his success, and was still worried that the dragon could attack again. But the virtual assistant reported that the enemy no longer gives out signs of life. The state of emergency was abolished, and the event report was being prepared. Thereafter, the virtual assistant reported the score of experience, and thanks to the blessing of the goddess of creation, the experience gained double, and Tamo instantly reached the 31st level. He received the title of Hercules, which added 5% to the attack, and the title of Superhumans allowed to obtain 3 or more levels at a time, automatically increasing the combat force by 10%. There was also a transcendent skill, which increased the total power in combat by 3%. Passive skills were added to the restoration of endurance, automatic recovery of magical strength, and supervisory. The fight was amazed at how much he received only 1 victory. However, it was obvious that he would not survive without the mysterious voice. At the same time, the hero noted how all his wounds were healed instantly, which testified he not only became much stronger. Only now did Tomoe realize how valuable the gift of the goddess is, and the voice of the assistant is undoubtedly the creation of the goddess. He immediately responded to Tomoe's thoughts, confirming his assumption. Tomoe thought who was talking to him constantly, because there was no one around. But the voice, remaining calm, explained that he was just a support system created by the goddess of the universe. Her task is to help her master so that he feels comfortable in the new and unknown world. Tomoe felt something unusual in this voice. Looks like artificial intelligence. The voice immediately confirmed its artificial nature, created by the hands of the goddess of creation. A virtual assistant devoid of physical body is endowed with data and mind. Tomoe understood the main idea and wondered if the virtual assistant had his own name. He replied to this nice voice that no one called him. Tomoe realized that constantly contacting the assistant as a system of support from the goddess of creation would be very inconvenient. The system suggested that the owner choose any name for her at her discretion. Tomoe wondered what simple and suitable name could be chosen. Standing for a few minutes in reflections, Tomoe suggested to name the system of Isis. Thanks to a female voice, this name seemed extremely suitable. The system approved the selected name and thanked its creator. She then reported that she can now be referred to, because all protocols are already quickly reinforced. Tomoe asked Isis what the whole system was capable of. But immediately she answered that the question was not quite clear. And there was no clear answer. Щоб вичерпно розповісти про всі можливості, потрібно 88 годин, тож варто уточнити запит для скорочення часу відповіді. Tomoe was surprised how long the clarification could be, and decided that he could hardly listen to so many hours. The administrator said that the guild rating consists of 6 rank. The list E rank, from which everyone can rise higher thanks to their own abilities. The next is D rank. Its holders are able to overcome weak demons. C rank includes a large percentage of experienced travelers. More powerful, have B rank. The rank opens access to special tasks from the guild. The highest is S rank, the vertex of human power. Isis explained that they are now on top of the Dragon Mountain, the largest of the Dragon Mountains, in the coldest part of the Castral continent. Although this information said little, the mysterious names aroused his interest. Toma wondered what had happened to the killed dragon, because it was obvious that this monster was not the first level. Ishida confirmed the assumption of his teacher, saying that such creatures are usually found in a moving cave, and for their meeting it is necessary to have at least 99th level. The moving cave is one of the most dangerous in the continent. So many adventurers form powerful commands to hike to its depths. At this point, none of the adventurers have returned successfully. Almost all travelers were killed. Tomoe was terrified of such prospects and felt indignation because the goddess of creation threw him with the first level in such dangerous lands. However, the Isis did not agree with her teacher and reminded that the goddess of creation was famous for his insight. It is easier to imagine that the goddess simply did not take into account all the possible factors for moving Tomoe on. Ishida recognizes that the goddess of creation has extraordinary power, but unfortunately its striking absurdity reduces this advantage. So she often works without thinking. Tomoe believes that such frankness of the system is quite rude, but it seems that it reflects the right truth. Ice apologized for unpleasant information, but also reminded that the actions of the goddess were reckless, because they put the life of her wards at risk. If it were not for a happy case, Tomoe could die on the first day of his new life. Tomoe, having agreed with Ishido, suggested that he leave the area faster until new monsters appeared. It is not necessary to rely solely on luck. Before leaving the Isis, she advised to take with her a defeated dragon and activate the magical crystal skill. Isis explained that it is enough to point out the dragon and pronounce the word generate. Tomoe obediently followed the instructions of the system, and the huge body of the dragon instantly turned into a radiant flow of light. Isis reported the generation of the class demon, the Emerald Dragon of Kaiser. Tomoe did not quite understand how this unusual process was going on, so she asked for clarification. Isis explained that in this world the victorious monsters crystallize, and their crystals are then sold for the manufacture of goods. In this case, the dragon was a high-level demon, so its magic embodied in the crystal was extremely concentrated. This could be a source of energy for magical weapons, as well as to serve as a material for creating a variety of tools. It all looked extremely practical, and the crystal itself resembled a valuable decoration. Isis reported that Tomoe could attribute the dragon's body to the Adventurers Guild and sell it for materials. In addition, a crystallized dragon can be restored using regenerative magic. All this seemed incredible, and Tomoe could not be interested in new knowledge. Tomoe decided that the body of the dragon would be too heavy to carry it, and suggested that his virtual assistant leave a monster in the form of a crystal. In the meantime, Tomoe asked how much more he would have to go and whether there would be possible to explain how long it would take, or how long the distance would have to be overcome to the nearest normal settlement. Isis without hesitation replied that to the nearest settlement about 1,000 kilometers to the south. This answer was stunned by Muya, because this distance seemed incredible, especially if she had to overcome her on foot. A few minutes later, the virtual assistant revealed the presence of hostile persons. Since there were no retreat routes, the emergency regime was activated. Tomoe once again became convinced that his anticipation was never supplied. Tomoe instantly surrounded a flock of dragons. Among them was a 35-level soldier draken, with a force of 2,000 units, a majestic 40-level large red dragon, with almost 6,000 units. The main among this group of dragons is the Sacred Dragon Emperor of the 118th level, whose power reaches impressive 26,000 units. It was obvious for Tomoe that all these rivals were far superior, especially when they acted together. However, surprisingly, he almost felt fear, only a slight trembling swept his body. Isis barely restrained to her new master and explained that the level of attack of the Dragon Emperor is much higher than all others combined, and he decided that he could not allow this horrific monster to win. In the end, he has an incredible hero on his side, sent by the goddess of the universe, who will surely overcome the enemy. Having united with the dragon detachment, Tomoe sought to cause maximum losses to enemies. The meeting of several powerful forces led to a huge energy burst. With confidence in the voice of Isis, she reported that there were no signs of life to the enemies, so the anxiety regime was cancelled and the report was prepared. Tomoe, of course, was not hidden in all the plans of the goddess of creation, and only masked about his victory over the dragons. The status menu reported that the leading star skill was successfully obtained, and a passive ability was obtained, which hidden increases the chance of luck to a striking 9.999%. Isis also reported that due to the effect of the blessing of the goddess, All the experience gained will increase 5 times. After the victory, Timoy reached the level 71, and the virtual assistant suggested reviewing all the skills and states in the magazine menu, where you can study all the improvements in detail. Timoya decided not to waste time dismantling in the complex formulation of numerous skills and improvements. He felt strong enough to continue a dangerous journey. Isis confirmed the expectation of its master, noting that the victory over the sacred emperor of the dragons significantly strengthened the hero forces. He is exhausted but joyful. He was just happy that came out alive from such an unexpected meeting. Isis advised the hero to collect the bodies of defeated dragons as soon as possible. However, Timoya wondered if they could just leave them. The virtual assistant immediately noted that this is not a wise decision. If the owner leaves the body of the monster non-crystallized, it is likely that it will turn into a terrible inanimate. In this condition, the creature will become even more aggressive and dangerous than before. Timoya was terrified of the prospect of seeing the Emperor of the Dragons in the inanimate form. Isis hastened to reassure his master, noting that he is not equal in power among monsters, so security is guaranteed. These words sounded optimistic, but Tamo still decided to leave the dangerous places as soon as possible. Isis explained that in the magical storage time stops when the object gets there, so you should not worry about spoilage, even when it comes to the body of the monster. If you wish, you can also accelerate the time for any chosen thing. In the following days of his journey, Timoya came across ancient ruins and decided to survey them. The barely tangible magical aura came out of these abandoned places, and this is what awakened his greatest curiosity. Going to the dilapidated ancient temple, he discovered a statue of a dragon that was extremely similar to those he had already destroyed. Considering this skillfully executed work, the young hero suddenly heard a strange voice that thanked him. Boy, surprised, immediately began to look at the unfamiliar room. Та незбагненний голос заспокоїв його, пояснюючи, що зв'язок відбувається через скульптуру дракона. The voice explained that Tamos recently fought with the Emperor of the Holy Mountain. A few days ago, a whole army of dragons appeared and destroyed his comrades. Це місце стало пеклом, де імператор драконів зі священної гори поглинув усіх своїх суперників. After that, a curse was imposed on him, which enveloped the whole mountain. It was here that the terrible massacre of his comrades began. Emerald and sapphire dragons were no exception. The voice thanked Tamo for the fact that their throats fell silent in battle. So, the dragons decided to leave jewelry in this place for their descendants. Thus, they gave my power over the dragons and the ability to fly. The voice continued to express gratitude to the agitated hero, and promised a variety of awards. However, Timoy assured that he really was in order, and he did not need any rewards. Проте голос наполягав далі, стверджуючи, що як глава родини та батько дітей, він зобов'язаний подякувати Тімою, і було б доречно прийняти заслужені скарби древнього храму. Timoy decided not to argue. Голос зі статуї пояснив, що його час добігає кінця, і наостанок побажав дізнатися ім'я гідного чоловіка. Timoy introduced without delay, and the voice only had time to answer that it was a wonderful name, before saying goodbye seems to forever. Обійшовши стародавній храм, Тімоя натрапила на склад зброї та різноманітних інструментів, які валялися біля великої скрині. Inside the chest itself lay a wonderful sword, reminiscent of Japanese katana. Айсіс пояснив, що це небесний, неймовірний меч, який може розсікати все на своєму шляху, не торкаючись жодного предмета. It embodies the void, achieved by the exception of everything and nothing. Тімоя не зрозумів пояснення, але Айсіс зазначив, що цей меч – безцінна реліквія незнищених богів, яка значно підвищить його бойову міць. Божественний незламний клинок ігнорує будь-яку броню та магію і додає нові здібності або магічні навички. Timoy noticed a strange sphere and decided that this artifact would definitely not exceed the blade. Isis quickly analyzed the highest precious stone of the gods and found out that the consciousness of the ancients, under the influence of divine forces, merged with the mind of Baylor forever, allowing to reach the top of the concentration of force. After obtaining this jewelry, Tamo received several skills and statuses, the detailed descriptions of which have already been loaded into the database. Після завершення аналізу нових навичок і статусів, Айсіс повідомила, що було виявлено опис навички «Жінка, яку ти любиш, не втече». Timoy was surprised by this meaningless name and asked what it means. Після відвідин храму Тамоя вперше випробував здобуту здатність літати і відчув неймовірну легкість, ніби без ваги. He thanked his virtual assistant, without which he could not manage. Irisa noted that she was created specifically to help her master. She was approaching her goal when Tamoya advised Tamoya to be extremely careful. It was rumored that life signals were constantly disappearing in the neighboring city. Тамоя насторожився і замислився, чи не стали жителі міста жертвами якихось нападів. Isis reported that the demons came to destroy all people and animals, and judging by the information received, it was a full-scale invasion. Тімоя вирішила втрутитися в ситуацію і неодмінно допомогти містянам у боротьбі з демонами. Isis supported the noble gust of her mistress and immediately changed the route. On this, Tamoy completed his story about how he found himself in Lucia's settlements. Водночас при кожному спогаді про богиню Всесвіту його гнів закипав із новою силою. On the eve of the memories were bitter and unpleasant. Водночас Тамоя знайшов задоволення у тому, щоб захищати Саяку, яка у цьому світі відома як Луція. Moa thought about her life when Lucius finally woke up and smiled at the hole, wished her owner a good morning. The young hero immediately remembered last night, and came to the conclusion that in fact, everything was not so bad. A few days after the battle with the huge dragons, Mai and his companions went to the city on several carts. They decided to distribute all the valuable materials obtained between the participants, not forgetting the delicious dragon meat. The first night during the stop, Mai announced to watch the camp and guard it. Thanks to the new abilities of the trick he received, he did not need a rest. At first, Tamo thought he would miss, but sometimes the company was Misha, helping to shorten time. She thanked him again for the salvation, and it was noticeable how a young lady glowed with joy. At the same time, Lucia clearly showed jealousy when Misha came just to chat at the fire of a cool evening. Tamoy felt tension, although Lucia suddenly noted that they should not worry about the younger ones, because they were only children, even if Misha was 18 years old. However, Misha was a very naive girl. She began to thank for her help, and admitted that her age did not matter at all. At the same time, the young niche stated that it has long reached the age of majority and can afford a lot more. From such an unambiguous hint, Lucia became even more angry, and Tamoy tried to cope with an unexpected desire to get acquainted with a magic Misha. Коли Люсія та Тамоя залишилися самі, дівчина попросила його навчити її, оскільки прагне стати сильною, щоб самостійно захистити всіх мешканців села. After all, if Tamoy did not appear in time, their home would have already threatened death. Lucia has admitted that her most important dream is now gaining force to protect those she loves. Moya understood her girlfriend's desire and promised to help. Проте відразу попередила, що тренування будуть не зовсім звичайними, але Люсія неодмінно стане сильнішою. To do this, you will have to train day and night. Тамоя вирішила поєднати приємне з корисним, надавши сил дівчині за допомогою вміння, що обдаровує зерно. Дівчина засоромилася пропозиції негайного тренування, нагадуючи, що поруч є інші, і вони можуть усіх розбудити. However, Timoy assured that everything would be fine, and it is not necessary to worry. І зрештою, його наполегливість переконала дівчину на це не зовсім звичне тренування сили. After a few days of travel, it became obvious that friends almost reached the city of Amrud. Because of this, the virtual assistant of the Isisa warned them about the approaching of unknown life forms, which significantly increased the danger of an unexpected attack. Lisa reported that the hostile detachment consisted of 15 people and 22 animals. Lucia noticed how worried Tamoy and asked what happened. However, the hero simply asked to keep peace and silence. Tamoy quickly told the girls about the situation in which they found themselves, as enemies suddenly appeared around them. He tried to keep calm and assured them that nothing was threatened with their safety, but no one would be able to catch them. The horizon appeared on the horizon, and they were just delighted with such a wonderful traveler's camp. The bandits especially enjoyed the pleasant aroma of women. Tamoy, realizing that it was stupidity, naively asked the bandits to simply leave their quiet camp. In response, they just laughed, praising him for a friendly reception. Of course, none of the attackers was about to give up their rich achievement. The bandits brazenly stated that Tamoa would take away all his money, women, and later life, accompanying it with images and ominous laughter. Tamoa decided that it may be necessary to quickly end this situation and deal with the attackers. But suddenly Lucia went forward and asked Monsieur Tamoa to leave her bandits. The courageous girl caught her sword. demonstrating the seriousness of her intentions. Tomoe decided to give the girl the opportunity to show all his acquired abilities, but also promised to be close to support when needed. The bandits fell silent because they did not expect to see such a bold girl. Another wave of scornful words collapsed on Tama. The bandits called him a real freak that threw an ordinary girl on them. However, Lucia immediately took the initiative, and with the only rapid blow stopped the regatta of the bandits, beheading one of them. The boys have not yet had time to retreat, as other bandits had already stopped a self-confident regatta, feeling a true threat from the girl. Lucia revealed her beastly essence and fiercely grieved on her opponents, urging them to prepare for death. However, the leader of the bandits, known for its power of 3,000 units of combat capacity, called for subordinates to calm down. He convinced that their quantitative advantage would give them victory. Lucia had no desire to regret the bandits and continued to destroy them. Its animal speed made it possible to destroy several scoundrels, and this caused panic among others. The gang leader could not believe that a regular fragile girl was so easily dealt with by his people. Actually, the leader of the bandits designed without the problem to choose frightened refugees, but he could not even think that he would come across such a relentless warrior with his sword. Meanwhile, having destroyed brown bandits, Lumia, which was called Sayaka, reached the 13th level and raised its fighting power to almost 3.5 units. During a clash with a powerful opponent, it became apparent that the bandits were very weak and cowardly in battle, so the leader ordered them to retreat immediately until he still had a little subordinates. In panic, the bandits ran off, trying to find shelter. Only the corpses remained from the bandits' gang, and the brave Lucia rejoiced in her victory. She knew that no one would match her. Lucia expressed gratitude to the fact that thanks to his exciting workout, she was able to significantly increase her level of strength. Misha, watching the battle, was amazed at Lucia's new abilities and asked how she reached them. Lucia proudly replied that Tomoya thanked everyone. After this incident, a refugee group continued its journey and soon reached the city of Amazio, without further obstacles in its path. The son of the head of the city, Lutar, congratulated Lucia with genuine joy, noticing that she was in order. Aroused, he boasted with his 35 level and combat capacity of more than 1,000 units. Lucia thanked Lutaru for his care and also pleased meetings with him. Both boys involuntarily condemned themselves for capturing the beauty of Lucia, causing her hands too much. The young man noticed it, and feeling awkward, asked them to let them go. Lutar confessed that the excitement of all was quite clear. The head of the city of Amrud was a strong man named Gorman Det, whose level reached 59, and the battle power approached 4,000. He expressed joy about the acceptance of refugees and relief, learning how they managed to escape. Amrud is the headquarters of the adventurers' guilds due to the proximity to the capital and the border of the state. The head of the city not only manages local affairs, but also deals with defense. The girls admired the hospitality of the city head and rejoiced that they were able to get safe. In response, Gorman assured the debt on his own behalf, which would provide complete protection for all arrived women. The head of the city appealed to Tomoa, noting that it was not necessary to leave without a well-deserved remuneration. Gorman Det suggested that the heroes stay overnight and use hospitality. Tomoe accepted the proposal, deciding that it was a great opportunity to look at the city. Once with Lucy in the room they gave, Tomoe immersed himself in reflection, which raised the girl's question about what he was worried about. He confessed that he felt a bad anticipation that gave him rest. Tomoe noted that it would be great to stay in this city, but he should prepare for the future, because all these attacks are only the beginning of more horrific events. Mai explained that he wanted to join the Adventurers Guild, because it would make it easier to move. The concerned Lucia asked where Tamo was going to go, if he did not know this world at all. I explained that he could not stay here, but Lucia had to realize that it would be safer for her to stay in this city, even if she became stronger. However, the girl reminded how long they did not see, and as soon as they found each other in this world. How can they part now? Tomoe reminded Lucia how much she sought to stay with those whom she considered her family because they were a real family for her. The girl replied that she did not give up this desire. The girl explained that if the world is really in danger, then she wants to help Tomoe anything and always stay with her. Lucia stated that she would not stay in this city, even if there, as her gentleman, she would like her. But the guy decided to explain how important Lucia is, and why he did not want to be dangerous. After a brief conversation about a possible joint trip, Tomoe suggested to celebrate their arrival in the city with intense training. After a hot night, Tomoe felt bad after breakfast, which caused anxiety in Lucia. Thanks to the virtual assistant of the Isis, who turned on resistance to poisons, Tomoe learned that his food contained a large dose of laxative. A person without protection would be 3 days of diarrhea at risk of fatal. Noah instantly suggested that he probably poured a laxative in his food. It was obvious that the son of the head of the city was very fond of Lucy and sought to get rid of the opponent. Moreover, Luder heard them noisy last night during their workout. Mine decided to avoid conflict with the son of the head of the city, simply thanking him for breakfast. Then she, along with Lucy, went to the Adventurers Guild. The face of the surprised Luther caused her many positive emotions, because the head of the city clearly embarrassed because of her defeat. First, to become an adventure seeker, you need to register in the Adventurers Guild, and only then go on a trip. Upon arrival in the guild, adventurers Tomoe and Lucia immediately approached the administrator. It was a charming girl who congratulated the guild guests and wondered what it could help. He explained that they would like to register with a friend as adventurers and do the destruction of various monsters. The girl on the reception kindly suggested Tomoe touches the magic crystal to start the registration process. When Tomoe touched the crystal, he felt a strange sensation, and the crystal himself illuminated much brighter. After that, the girl from the reception explained that the registration was already completed. Since no violations of the law were detected, they could go to the next stage. Tomoe was surprised how simple everything was, and the girl explained that this magical ball shows all the applicants' scores. Thanks to this magical ball, the guild management effectively prevents different criminals from registering as adventurers. But do not worry. All personal information is securely protected and remains confidential. Before the subsequent evaluation of the applications, the administrator decided to talk about the existing rating system in the guild. When the Avasti was a gesture, invited the guest, the door opened and a charming stranger came into the room, which immediately attracted the attention of Tomoe. He realized that this slave is probably the strongest or most careful adventurer in the surrounding area. The administrator asked if the explanation was clear and suggested to repeat if suddenly something remained unclear. But Tomoe realized the basic principles and expressed gratitude to the girl for the information. And it was at this moment that the newly arrived guests of the guild was noticed by a strange man with a horn. The experienced adventurer was interested in a powerful aura Tomoe, who seemed incredible to a newcomer who only came to register in the guild. An experienced adventure, as part of the Sage group, reached the 89th level and had more than 9,000 units. He addressed Tomoe if he really was a newcomer. The administrator confirmed that it was really about newcomers and invited them to go with her to another room. Mine did not know how to properly communicate with such personalities, and with a question in the glance asked Luke. The applicants for the guild were invited to stand on a soft couch and enjoy the drinks to continue dating. Deciding not to delay, he directly asked Tomoe to apply all his strength. However, he noted that he is only an ordinary beginner and does not know what methods guild is guided. At the same time, he was convinced that no one was able to reveal all his secrets. But when it turned out that he could really determine whether there is a place to recognize the true power of his enemy, it became especially interesting. From the very beginning, Tomoe sought not to be different in the new world, so his assistant was carefully hid his true power, reducing visible indicators. But it remained a mystery, as Edvin guessed that Tomoe hides her true abilities and was able to skillfully analyze opponents. Eden himself confessed that he was extremely interested in finding out at what age Tomoe gained his extraordinary power. Edvin confessed that he did not hope to hear the truth at all, given the carefully hiding his true data. Surprised by the interlocutor's insight, Tomoe asked if Edvin was confident in his words. Having a rare ability to see the true power of others, Edvin immediately explained his confidence. For example, Edvin considered Lucia and noted that she owns orange, and her combat force exceeds 4,000, so even a detachment of fighters could not resist her. This is how details about Tomoe were found out. He confessed that he really did not know the boundaries of Tomoe's power. For his 100 years in the guild, he never encountered someone like. The stronger the person, the more obvious the difference in opportunities becomes, but this difference is simply unpredictable. He said that when meeting with Tamya, he felt as if he was standing in front of the king of demons. Such a comparison surprised Tama, because he never expected that it could be equated with demons. Tomoe asked if he was exaggerating in his conclusions. However, an experienced adventurer explained that he personally met with the king of demons during the war 4 years ago, so he knows what he was talking about. Such words only made Tam to think why he has the same abilities as the King of Demons. Avidin realized that Tomoe seems much kinder than the King of Demons, and it is not surprising that he was hiding his great power. If he accepts a proposal for cooperation, a worthy reward will be waiting for him. First, Edwin offered 100 gold coins with an advance, regardless of the result of the task. And secondly, Tomoe will get the best home in the city, of course, absolutely free. In case of successful completion of the task, Tomoe will receive another 1,000 gold coins and immediately increase by the title B. In addition, Edwin has promised to send a letter to the guild asking to provide Tima and his companion free travel to any city on this continent. The guy was impressed with such generosity and noted that Edwin offers too many. Descent asked about the charms of this mission. Edwin honestly admitted that the task is quite complicated and is not suitable for an ordinary person. Tomoe asked why not collect other adventurers of his rank, who would easily complete a difficult task. But he was explained that such actions beyond his authority, and all high-level adventurers were scattered in different parts of the world, so it would be extremely difficult to collect them together. Therefore, in this situation, the choice remains only Tomoe, who agrees to take on a difficult task. The hero thought about the proposal because it had both advantages and disadvantages, and it was not clearly clear what he would have to face. In the end, Tomoe agreed to the proposal because his unrestrained curiosity and thirst for adventures were prevailing. His decision responded with approval and said that he should meet another person before departure. Tomoe appealed to the Emperor of Silver Wolves to be careful and give him time to find a pearl. The mighty wolf promised that he would try to hold back his tribe, but warned that he would not be able to do so for a long time, because younger wolves want blood and consider it necessary to immediately attack the royal capital. The girl, named Sonyal, said that she is now a rented slave for Tomoe. It turned out that Sonyal is an elite adventurer with a level of 65 and a combat capacity of more than 7,500 units. She assured that she would be an assistant for Tomoe throughout the lease. In this situation, Sonyal will be a mentor, and will probably try to pass all the necessary knowledge needed by the adventurer. She noted that she should evaluate Tomoe's combat skills, so Sheer is awaited after the goblin attack. Sonia said that on a plain south of Mithra, a large crowd of goblins, headed by their emperor, gathered. The slave warrior asked if it would not be too difficult for a Tomoe beginner. If Tamo does not cope with this task, it is unlikely that he will be able to continue to accomplish the elite task from Edvin. Tamo realized that only after completing the training task, the Sonal will reveal all the details of Edvin's special mission, so the intrigue remains unchanged. It became obvious that Tomoe needed to show all his true strength to successfully overcome the fight with the Goblin group. A group of Goblin appeared on the horizon, and Sonyal confirmed that it was only one of the departments of the Goblin regular army. At first, Sonyal suggested that Tomoe show her skills and asked not to interfere until she dealt with the Goblins. Such courage was struck by Tomoe, who was looking forward to finding out what this attractive girl was capable of. The charming adventurer Sonyal decided to demonstrate her magical abilities, and a bright magical aura shone around her. The charming electric wall broke out with bright discharges, instantly destroying several goblins. Sonia took advantage of the moment, and, armed with her staff, struck several more monsters, who did not have time to hide from the fright. Tomoe was fond of Sonyal's majestic and graceful movements. This accurately met his expectations from such a arenament, when participants should destroy dangerous monsters. After completing the battle, Sonyal Goblin thanked her temporary owner for his well-deserved praise. The girl's slave explained that in the future, when Tomoe and Lucia will fight, she will only perform in extreme cases. Tomoe assured that he would make every effort, and full of confidence, successfully completed the training task. Sonyal assured that she would provide magical protection from the rear, while Tamo and Lucia should attack Goblin in front. The hero agreed with this plan of action, and was convinced that he would easily destroy the goblins. Mu decided that he could actually burn all the goblins in a minute. However, such a easily obtained triumph would not be considered a complete workout. Tomoe said Lucia that he was taking the goblins on the right, and she had to cope with those on the left. Lucia, full of confidence in her abilities, has promised to complete the task perfectly. Tima and Lucia's lightning attacks left goblins without any chance of survival, despite their desperate attempts to defend themselves. Everything went extremely bad for them. You watched the fight carefully and was amazed at the skill of newcomers who did not look like that. After the destruction of the last goblin, Timoy suggested Sonieli to evaluate the success of the completion of a training mission. The passionate slave noted that Timoy's movements looked very artificial. However, they always achieved the desired result. Sonia explained that the movements of Lucy's mistress seemed a little mechanical, but Timoy looked as if he had restrained his powerful power. One emphasizes that Sandys's request is of great importance, and therefore there should be no hint of failure under no circumstances. Actually, Edwin may take this difficult task, so she could give up the help of the MOD if she considers him unable to cope. Judging by Sano's reaction, Timoy felt that something like this had happened earlier, which is why she speaks with such confidence. Having realized the importance of events, Timoy swore from now on, showing his true strength. At this time, the main forces of the Goblin attack were already gathered in the area, ready to take revenge on their dead comrades. Timoy was amazed at their quantity, and the assistant of Isis explained that the total number of goblins was 512 creatures with combat capacity in 2010. Sanul acknowledged that she did not expect to see such a huge number of goblins. However, Timoya reassured, this is not a problem, and they will definitely cope. Nevertheless, Lucia was not so sure of looking at the whole army of goblin. This time, the young hero Tomoe decided to sway with his magical abilities and made a rapid explosion. The crazy tongues of the flame collapsed on the goblins with a deadly whirlwind, leaving them no chance of survival. Sanal couldn't believe her own eyes because she did not expect such force from Tomoa, even because he partially hides his abilities. Immediately reported raising the level to 84. At the same time, Lucia increased to the 25th and has increased significantly. Sonyal immediately acknowledged that this incredible victory allowed her to reach the 70th level, raising his fighting power to almost 9,000. Stunned, she exclaimed, "What is it at all?" Tomoe explained that this is just the advanced magic of fire and it is not surprising. But Sonia acknowledged that such a level of ability to go beyond her expectations, so she would have to review the entire future plan of action. The energetic son stated that they should go to the Kingdom of Drumrocks as soon as possible, and be sure to take a carriage to return to Amrud. But Tomoya suggested waiting a little, noticing something interesting in the distance. Tomoe was annoyed by the unexpected vitality of Emperor Goblin, who miraculously avoided the pernicious flames. The angry monsters showered by Tama curses and images. Sonia explained that the Goblin Emperor was the strongest of all, and was actually the boss of the Goblin raid at the 30th level. Moai was not particularly impressed with the average force of the enemy, but still decided to stop him as soon as possible, while the Goblin Emperor barely held on his feet. Suddenly, the wounded Emperor Goblin has undergone incredible changes. His body has grown several times. Thanks to the renewable magic, the Emperor gained 90th level and fighting power exceeding 6,000 units. Moa asked why the power of this monster suddenly increased. Samuel explained that the complexity of the attack on Goblin was that if you deprive the Emperor of the troops and injure him, he becomes terribly strong. Therefore, they usually try to kill him at the very beginning of the battle, without touching the weaker opponents. Moa realized that she complicated the situation for herself, seeking to impress others. Timoy apologized for his carelessness, and Lucius noted that he had the chance to overcome such a powerful monster in them. Sano stressed that in such a situation, it is best to make a plan and run as soon as possible. The slave explained that she would be a bait to win Tomoe and Lucia to get to the city and ask for help. It is necessary to hurry, because if the Hoblin Emperor gets the cities, the consequences will be catastrophic. Tamo asks if this creature will be a great threat if it begins to be out. Tamoe promised to end immediately with King Goblin here and now. The girls were fascinated by his determination and were surprised by the incredibly transparent blade in the hero's hands. When you go to mine, ask Samuel to watch him closely to assess if he is a special task from him. Everyone agreed, expressing hope for the success of Tomoa. Meanwhile, the passionate Lucia sincerely wished her friend good luck. The insidious Emperor Goblin was February and Moya for her laughter, and solemnly promised the hero of a close death. To the great surprise of Emperor Goblin, his powerful blow did not cause any harm. The hero activated magical protection, which allowed him to repel the attack without the slightest injury. Emperor Goblin said that it was impossible, but all the events unfolded exactly as Timoy thought. Samuel was shocked no less than Emperor Goblin. Tomoy managed to stop the blow with his bare hands and did not even move in his place. However, Tomoy noted the dangerous rival that the longer he stands on his feet, the more foolish it looks. After the abusive words, Tomoy instantly moved to decisive action. instantly striking a lightning blow with his foot that bent Emperor Goblin in half. Without giving the opponent to recover, Tomoe decided to end the battle with the blow of his blade. The sword stroke was so accurate and powerful that Tomoe managed to cut a huge monster in half, thus destroying the Emperor of the Goblins forever. Immediately became aware of the level and experience scores for 90 seconds, so the fighting of Toma reached 200 out of 40,000. Lucia was delighted with the victory of her beloved friend, and Sona was so surprised that she fell into a real stupor. Subsequently, the rabbis returned to consciousness, recognizing that she was amazed by the great victory. Tomoe became interested in what grade the son would now put for the results of the training task. The slave was so excited that she couldn't find the right words to answer. In the end, Sunul admitted that she wanted to ask Tomoe a question. Suddenly, the slave asked the young hero to buy her forever, because she felt a restless desire to be with him. Now Tima's turn to solidify in mind. He did not understand the traditions of the slave owner, and did not seek to take such responsibility. After the victory over the Goblin Emperor, the adventure team returned to the trading company. Their leader was extremely surprised by such a quick appearance, and asked Sonyalia with a question about what happened. The slave, without unnecessary words, appealed to the head of the trading company to allow the sand to buy it once and for all. She believed that it was this person who deserved to be his master. Tamo thought that he never really gave consent, and wondered why Sonia was trying to solve everything on his own. The head of the trading company was surprised by the sudden passion of Sanwell, and concluded that she really has great confidence in the young owner. Meanwhile, Tomoe was increasingly surprised how concisely this conversation was underway, and gradually began to understand that he did not mind to buy a slave for himself. During a brief acquaintance, Sanel was revealed as a strong, experienced, intelligent, and just a charming girl. Her beauty brings true aesthetic pleasure. After talking to the girl, the head of the trading company approached Tomoe to discuss all the details of the financial agreement. The head of the trading company explained that from this day, and for a whole month, people will try to significantly increase rates at auction for Sonia. Therefore, he noted, Tomoe should decide whether he will be able to pull the necessary amount for such a popular girl. Tomoe asked with some caution in the cost of a rabbi. The head of the trading company, without ceasing to smile, reported that Tomoe would need 5,000 signed gold coins to complete this agreement. Solsul immediately indignant, considering this price too big. The head of the trading company explained that the request for the purchase was originally received from the diplomat of Godman, and it was because of this that the price increased sharply. At the same time, the owner's son noted that Dodman is undoubtedly an honest official who, due to his skills in negotiations and trade with other countries, contributed to the growth of the economy. However, unfortunately, he is known for his strange tendency to use and mock the slaves. It would be a shame to give a beautiful son into the hands of such a spoiled man. Tomoe, of course, did not want such a fate for a beautiful and valuable sonny, so despite its considerable price, he decided to buy the girl back, returning her freedom and dignity. The young hero dared to surprise even the head of a trading company, saying that 5,000 coins were too low for a magical son. Therefore, he decided to try to collect 30,000 coins. At the head of the trading company, the manager could not believe his ears at first, emphasizing that only 3 royal coins are a price equal to all the property of a rich merchant. Isis quickly explained to her master that in this world, 1 royal coin is equated with 10 ordinary gold coins. 3 such coins are able to save 100 lives. Tomoe insisted that the sonal was worth the price, and promised to raise this amount for a month. The head of the trading company did not argue with the generous hero, because to give up such an offer would be unreasonable. At the end of the conversation, the chairman of the trading company noted that he now realizes the reason why Samuel is so attached to Thyomia-san. However, unfortunately, in business the laws are unchanged. The one who pays more wins. Takayama assured that he would fulfill his part of the agreement, emphasizing the importance of this key truth. Samuel wondered in Tomoe whether it was so open to challenge the minister. But the young hero confidently replied that, as a real man, he could not allow to give such a beautiful girl to someone else. Tamo asked the slave not to worry and promised to take up some business to prove his dignity to be her master. The charming slave was very comforted, and she confessed to look forward to it. At that moment, Tamo felt that even the goddess was on his side, so everything should be as he wishes. On the same night, Lucia and Sanral were alone and decided to talk to get to know each other better. Lucia asked Sanral not to call her a mistress, because both of them were just slaves of one master. Sanral confessed that at first she thought, Tomo and Sanroll a couple of lovers, because their relationships do not resemble the relationship of the owner and the servant. After that, Samuel apologized for his excessive interest in her personal life, because, by status, she does not seek to be interested in such aspects of the owner's life. However, Lucia immediately reassured a new girlfriend, explaining that she had the impression that many people could admire Timo. Although Tomoya himself is not aware of this, he has become quite popular lately. Lucia explained that this is the reason why they should unite with Sonel to support their master together. She added that if Sonia feels the same to Tomoya, they can love him together. Lucia immediately agreed to be a loyal partner and thanked Ms. Lucia for her kindness. However, she immediately reminded that it was necessary to forget about the ladies, because it was extremely inconvenient for her. She noted that it would be enough to turn to her name, and it would be more convenient for everyone. Sunil promised to follow this and asked her to name. From now on, they have become a real partner, united by a common purpose. Both girls agreed to share all the secrets, difficulties, and their feelings for Timoy-san. Each of the girls was inspired by friendship, because it is at such moments that great legends are born. Subsequently, they should become the strongest army of combat slaves, which will consist of personal concubines of Tomoya, although no one could imagine it now. One morning, Tamo went to the local market to buy something, and was amazed at how tasty food was in this fantasy city. The first thing Mine and his two charming companions did when they arrived in the capital was visiting the guild main office. The adventure master, similar to a real traveler, met the younger brother Wayne, Old Wayne, and he without delay revealed them the essence of the important task that was waiting for them soon. Old Wayne reported that the tribe of Silver Fenrir Vovk declared war on people, and already know that they were planning an attack on the capital at the behest of their leader. It is all very unexpected and amazing, because these intelligent creatures have never been alert with people before, and did not even show aggression. Earlier, the leader of Silver Fenrir and Queen Hildegard the 20th were allies, but now Her Majesty is chained to bed and not in the strength to do something. Tomoya with her satellites, after hearing the basic information about the problem, decided to stay in this city on vacation before the start of the meeting of the main strategists. Walking through the streets of the city, Tamo noticed the locals and realized that most of them probably did not even suspect the approaching problems. Of course, the management of the capital was afraid of possible panic in the city, so she tried to keep the locals in complete unknown. Meanwhile, Tomoe paid attention to a strange old woman. The whims of battle and the old woman met, and the woman immediately called the young man. Boy, deciding to show courtesy, asked what had happened. The woman said she was very worried about her stomach. At first Tomoe thought that she was experiencing pain, but the reason was much simpler. The woman was just hungry. Of course. So he did not stay away. He helped the old woman, shared with her just purchased products. And the mood of the woman immediately rose, and the state of health improved. Tomoya was glad to help the needy and said goodbye to her with a light heart. But suddenly the old woman grabbed Tomoya by her hand and stated that he should thank for such kindness. The guy tried to reassure the worried woman, explaining that his help was absolutely. However, the woman was more and more persistently repeating that she should thank Tama. The young hero began to feel an increasing annoyance, especially when the elderly lady began to hint at gratitude for food. The obsessive woman did not stop for food and suggested to clean up Tamina's thought of anxiety and problems. But Tammy did not understand what the old man really sought, and only dreamed of getting rid of her presence as soon as possible. The woman suddenly stated that, despite her old look, she actually manages the whole country. Tamoy was annoyed in an interest in who she was. But at that moment, someone called the old woman, and a strange woman was distracted by the conversation. During the farewell, the strange old woman assured that the next time they were waiting for an unforgettable meeting, and they will have a great time together. Such a prospect caused in Tomoya inconvenience, and he sharply stated that this would never happen, and it is better to see them anymore. The woman only laughed and confidently stated that it was not their last meeting, after which she rushed. Tima surprised this unexpected meeting with a fun elder, and he wanted to forget about her as soon as possible. The first evening of his stay in the royal capital came soon. Tomoya was lying in bed trying to relax, although the thought of the future is a difficult task to disturb him. But suddenly two of his faithful companions came into the room, looking mysteriously. Tomoy suggested that they sit down, seeking to understand what prompted the girls to come to him at such a late time. The girls remained unusually silent, only sometimes sharing their views. Finally, tired of this mystery, Tomo decided to clarify the situation and asked what was the case. But the next moment, when the young son took his outerwear, Tamawa asked why she was doing it. The boy reminded that he is not yet a full-fledged host for Samuel, and therefore they should not come closer. But the slave was persistent, confessing that it would not withstand such a long expectation, and therefore it is better to get closer. She got to the side of her girlfriend, beginning to convince Tama that she should not stop the girl when she has a sincere desire. Such frankness was surprised by Tama, and the guy wondered when the girls became so close that they understand each other's desire. Where Moyne never received any explanations, but felt only incredible female unwavering. The young Sauniel behaved like an experienced woman, and immediately suggested that you not spend time on vain chats. Tama realized that he no longer had the strength to resist such temptation. After all, he was still very young, and of course, had weakness to beautiful girls. After Sano achieved her, she shone with joy. Tai, who also glowed with happiness, solemnly promised to buy it from the previous owner. Sano confessed that this moment was the most important in her life, and she was ready to wait a little. Virtual Isis noted that the romantic feelings had reached their peak, and the conquest of the slave happened successfully. Suddenly, an unexpected message from Isisa came. A virtual assistant reported that Samuel had already become Moai's property. The guy was puzzled because the contract has not yet been signed, and the payment has not been made. However, he suggested that this happened because of their unexpected proximity, which influenced the determination of Samuel's status. Isis has announced that the number of captives exceeded the required norm. The increase in the skill of the ruler was due to the accumulation of experience in romantic feelings. Now the additional ability of the King of Garum has been discovered. Tomoe felt unexpectedly awe and decided to fight it. Unfortunately, Tomoe could not fall asleep again and continued to look in the pale moon, thinking about her new ability and the unexpected feeling that she caused. In the morning, Tomoe with the girls went to a strategic meeting on the prevention of the invasion of monsters. The passionate Luther was surprised to know that Lucia would also take part in a dangerous mission, and tried to explain the seriousness of the threat. However, his father, Gorman's Det, immediately reproached him, demanding that Luther behave more decent among others. Meanwhile, they announced the arrival of strategic planning and execution, Lord Godman Lebloshi. The room included a low, bald man of the middle age, the same nasty pervert that Tomoe had already heard. It was an extremely beautiful slave with him, and at once all stopped the hoke-up conversations. Lord Godman took his place and pleased with the pleasure of seeing all those present. Timoy, watching the figure carefully, remembered all the details of what he heard, trying to master the whole picture. The all-knowing Isis confirmed that this person is none other than the Lord, who intended to buy Sanul. Timoy immediately understood the cause of such desperate warnings from the head of a trading company. It is obvious that Lord Godman has a great wealth and significant influence in high society. In the meantime, discussing the main details of this private meeting began. During the strategic meeting, it was decided to avoid the battle with Fenrir. For further negotiations with the opponents, it was necessary to get into the Forest of Spirits. The problem is that this forest was so huge that it could compare with the whole country, and also contained unexplored dungeons. It was rumored that in the depths of the Forests of the Spirits, hiding the legendary ruins with incredible artifacts. Everyone wondered why Fenrir chose this unique place to meet. It was decided to send a small group of elite adventurers for negotiations. Of course, there was a team of Tomoya, as well as Gorman's Det with his son Luther. The group also included a girl Ariel with a piercing look, which at first glance looked experienced, and was marked by special courtesy and communication. Tomoe instantly reminded that in this dangerous journey, they have to trust each other as themselves. Therefore, he advised the Ariel Soul Boys to avoid excessive formality in communication. The girl apologized for the inconvenience, explaining that she was just her special accent. However, she was ready to grant Tamoy-san's request to change her speech manner. Instead, the guy apologized for temporary inconvenience and explained that in critical situations it would be much easier. Sonia added that Master Ariel comes from a place where everyone speaks very politely. She met Ariel with pleasure, greeted her as a mentor. She also noted that the technique of owning the sword of Ariel has improved significantly. Ariel was pleased with this meeting, and reminded that it could now be avoided formalities in communication. Therefore, it is better to communicate using only names and given the request of the Atom, to abandon traditional appeals and formalities. Ariel wondered Samuel why a girl like her is near such an unlucky Tomoya. Samuel explained that at this time, Tamo is her master, and therefore it is her duty. Meanwhile, Lutar continued to show concern for Lucia. The young man confessed that Lucia's participation in the track because of his danger. Lucia was already tired of the annoying Lutar's advice, and only occasionally pretended to be grateful for his attention and care. Gorman's dad apologized for his restless son's behavior, and acknowledged that he personally enjoyed Tomoya's society during this important mission. Tomoya has long realized that Gorman's debt was different from Luther, and was the counsel to have such an experienced ally nearby. Gorman Det tried to explain that his son is not a bad person, but unfortunately, Luther often behaves eccentric and demonstrates limited in his views. Unfortunately, as a father, he often feels shame for his rebellious and threatening son. He was told that Luther's life is only a stage of boundless adolescence, and similar often happens at this age. Therefore, it can still change for the better. Norman Det agreed with Tima, and noted that he looks no older than Luther, but it has a much more mature approach to life. Timoy explained this by the rich life experience of Norman, and mentally mentioned that he was 41 years old, deciding that in this world, he was probably already considered an elderly man. Having passed deeper into the unknown lands of the humorist, Timo felt a sudden change in the surrounding atmosphere. Lucia explained that it was a kind of greeting, and therefore should be careful without losing vigilance. Tamo decided to provide this issue of Lucia, because it was the only one who understood Fenrir's language. The girl promised to try to make contact on the first occasion. In a few minutes, Lucia had the opportunity to demonstrate their skills to negotiate. Huge white wolves approached them. Lucia turned to Fenrir and stated that she herself was a girl with the inheritance of white wolves, and their detachment came here for negotiation. She tried to avoid conflict and urged Fenrir to remain calm. Tamoy, ready to act, was amazed at the incomprehensible language spoken by Lucia. Its sound was unique and unprecedented for Tamoy. Gases provoked the blessing of the goddess of creation, activating the automatic translation of an unfamiliar language and the ability to recognize the dialects of all possible races. Tamoa heard the Fenriners announce that they would not leave these places until people fulfill their conditions. White wolves demanded to return the treasures stolen by people, assuring that their leader did not really want to start a devastating war with humanity. She did not know what values were discussed, and asked why white wolves were convinced that it was people who were guilty of their disappearance. Seeing that the discussion did not work, Mo decided to intervene. He apologized for the intervention and turned to white wolves. The man noted that there was a significant misunderstanding on both sides, so it is best for everyone to calm down and focus on the exchange of important information. Fenrir expressed doubts, and suddenly, Tamo just wants to deceive them? There is no evidence of the true intentions of people, and therefore information cannot be shared. Tamo mentally agreed with Fenrir, realizing that these creatures are extremely cautious with potential enemies. Tamoy replied that he fully understood all the arguments of white wolves, so they are ready to complete negotiations and show restraint, rarely leaving these territories. Tamoy told the whole group the results of negotiations with white wolves, and no one could decide on further actions, because no one knew about the stolen treasures. Ariel was felt by the capture of the spectacular knowledge of Tamo's rare Fenrir's language and praised him. However, Tamo understood that he was only due to the blessing of the goddess of creation. One of the debts noted that there is simply no time to return to the general staff to clarify the goals of the mission. Therefore, they must be divided into two groups to complete 2 tasks at a time. The first group under the leadership of Lucia will remain in the forest to continue negotiations with white wolves. Meanwhile, the second group will go to the capital of the kingdom to reconcile actions with the headquarters and start evacuation. Tamoy suggested staying with Lucia in the woods, as only they spoke Fenrir and could continue negotiations. Others can return to the capital, because it was not pointless to leave someone else in the forest. Luder intervened in the conversation, saying that Louis would not be left alone in the woods. If she stays there, he will be near her. The young child Lutar began to detect hysteria, insisting that he was left with Lucia. We are not going to succumb to this stupid young man, and explain that his presence will only complicate the situation, because in the case of danger we will have to protect him. Lutar began to shout and indignant, assuring that he was able to take care of himself. Gormenborg tried to reassure his son, but Lutar did not listen to his father and continued to call everyone fools. Timoya decided not to interfere with their relationship, only noted that Gormenborg's upbringing had failed. Despite the noisy quarrel, even the father failed to change Lutar's opinion. Sugarily and seriously, The new moon stated that it remains in the forest with Lucy to protect her. So, the girl could work quietly and feel safe. This time, Lucia's patience was exhausted, and she struck her fans with a fist. The blow turned out to be so powerful that the rayon flew a few meters away, landing with noticeable pain. The stunned looter asked why Lucia hit him, because he just wanted to be near. But the girl answered how she dared to behave so much, and that he considers herself her boyfriend. Lucia sharply quit that looter had already bored his pranks. He should go to the capital. Lucia decided to finally put all the dots over and, saying that looter had no right to her, because she belongs to the Tumle. Her indignation and fatigue from this situation were obvious. The boyar remembered that in a distant childhood neighborhood, children laughing at his friendship with Sayaka, which even forced a young girl to cry. However, these scoundrels did not stop, and finally received granted, aka rejected, heavily separating them with a wooden stick, and forced everyone to cry, repent, and apologize for their evil jokes. Now Lucia showed the same anger as in her childhood, so she could easily study Lutar, which would be superfluous, especially before her father. Tomoe asked Lucius to stop and approach him. In the end, Tomoe managed to persuade the girl to calm down and apologize for her anger. Lucia approached and fulfilled her mentor's request, apologizing to the whole group. Moa stated that he would remain for the negotiations because it will benefit everyone, thus avoiding unnecessary conflicts. Left alone in the forest, Tomoe decided to continue negotiations with white wolves, although he did not know how to convince these proud and strong creatures. After a brief meeting, the group decided that it was not necessary to leave Tomoe in the forest, and the case chose a charming Ariel. Tamo apologized that she had got this role, but Ariel was not upset and replied that everything was fine. Lucy, whose mental state was unstable, joined the main group that went to the capital. Tomoe realized that Ariel undoubtedly did not know the language of the wolves, but someone from the kingdom had to stay. Otherwise the concerned elders would not believe in the results of negotiations. Ariel acknowledged that, based on recent events, considered Tam a worthy man. Ariel noted that Looter's behavior was very angry, although it should be acknowledged that he is still a regular child. However, it is time for him to do as an adult, especially at such important points. Ariel also confessed that she wants to become a mature woman as soon as possible. Tomoya lifted his eyebrows in surprise, hearing such an unusual desire, and asked how many years Ariel actually. The girl explained that she is still a teenager, although it looks quite adult. Tomoya looked carefully at her look, wondering how teenagers in this fantastic world develop quickly. Ariel complained that her body was developing too fast, and now others do not perceive it by real age. And she just dreams of visiting stores with classmates, be fashionable and feminine. Ariel confessed that he could not stop and constantly refines his fencing skills, performing the same tasks as adults. The expectation of her father is too high, which is why she does not want to make him, constantly making every effort. Tomoe noted that although Ariel looks like an adult woman, at the same time she is quite sweet, like a real doll. The girl was surprised by such an unusual description, because no one had called it before. Tomoya said with confidence that Ariel will be unsurpassed in a sophisticated women's dress, because she is an incredible beauty. But now it's time to get together and go for negotiations with Fenders. Tomo promised to defend Ariel, so she can relax and boldly follow him. The girl was immediately embarrassed by embarrassment, because in fact she remained a small child in her soul, who had never been alone before with her husband. Virtual Isida reported that the feeling of love in the soul of Ariel reached the peak, and the process of conquest was successfully completed. Given her strong desire to voluntarily become a slave, Ariel automatically joined the existing ones. He was surprised that she was so fast, although she was not going to conquer her at all. Ariel confessed that she could not imagine how good a man could be. The girl apologized for her illness and suggested teaching her how to behave in an adult. Tamioya, admiring the attractiveness of Ariel, promised that when the right moment came, he would certainly help her climb the step of maturity. At the same time, he realized that due to his talent, many phrases arise in his head, and he only has to say them. At this exciting moment, the conversation suddenly appeared by a white wolf, apologizing for its unexpected appearance. He explained that he was late, but just wanted to find out what was happening here, and immediately came across participants in the negotiations. Tamio asked white wolves about their decisions, and it turned out that Fenrir also agreed to continue the negotiations. The royal messenger explained that he was ready to leave the weapon so that no one is embarrassed. However, the White Wolf replied that it was unnecessary because Tamio did not seem hostile. The White Wolf promised Tamio audience with the emperor. After Fenrir went deep in the forest, Tamio noted that they may have been a little embarrassed by the White Wolf with the scene he found. Ariel only smiled, confessing that the council to help Tamio seize sand and not mind repeating this scene again. Tamo and Ariel found themselves in front of the mysterious dungeon, in which Emperor Fenrir was rumored. Stepping the long corridor of the underground gallery, a majestic silver wolf emperor appeared in front of the envoys. He praised the guests for their courage, because he did not expect to see people in his cave. Timoy decided to be as polite as possible and thanked the emperor for the invitation. At first, Timoy asked about the stolen treasure, which was reported during the negotiations, as well as the victims required by Fenrir. After all, this caused a misunderstanding on both sides, which had to be corrected immediately. The Emperor of the Silver Wolf assured that he did not demand any casualties, but the information about the treasures was true. The pearl of the Emperor of the Silver Wolf, who inherited from the previous emperor, was stolen. Samaya questioned Ariel whether he knew something about the pearl of the Emperor of the Silver Wolf. For the wonder. For the girl, it was a completely new information. She had not even heard about the existence of such an artifact. After a brief reflection, the girl remembered how Godman said, when he receives 2 more wonderful pearls, he would become a lord of the whole world. They say if you collect all 5 parts, the pearl is actually a crystal of the power created by Kaiser before his death. Even one such pearl can give incredible power. Tamo wondered if all 5 pearls belonged to Kaiser. The Silver Wolf Emperor explained that Kaiser has about 3 parts, but exactly 2. Kaiser has exactly the pearl of the Drakonivsky Emperor and the Supreme Pearl. Isis explained that, unlike magical crystals, pearls are created only by Kaiser himself. The peculiarity of the pearl of the Drakonivsky Emperor is that at the same time there can be only 3 such pearls in the world. If a pearl is absorbed, it is impossible to create a new one, until the one who absorbed it is not die. Currently, the location of the Supreme Pearl remains a mystery, and if someone is greedy, it will be a big problem. Tamo asked the Silver Wolf Emperor whether the pearl of the Emperor of the Dragons may belong to Saint Hill and 2 dragon Kaisers. To which the huge wolf replied in surprise, how could Tamo know about it? Because it is unknown to any of the people. The young hero explained that he possesses the crystals of all 3 dragons, along with the pearl itself. This confession struck and excited the Silver Wolf. However, the mighty wolf, having examined Tima's condition, realized that the pearl was really inside him. The leader of all the wolves confessed that he could never imagine how Timoy was able to defeat the Holy Emperor of the Mountain. Ami said that the Emperor of the Holy Mountain gave a pearl after the battle with the dragons. The mighty wolf confessed that it seems very funny, because he would never think that the Emperor of the Holy Mountain would consider man worth such recognition. Although all this could be dangerous, now the question is that Tamo will do with the pearl she received. The guy confessed that he had never thought of it before or even heard of the existence of any pearls to this day. Moa asked whether she realized that she had only to turn the pearl of the Emperor's silver wolf, and this would prevent the war between Fenrirs and people. The mighty wolf replied that this would be enough if Tamo was able to complete the task. Tamoy assured that everything would be fine, because he has already undertaken the case. The Silver Wolf Emperor took the responsibility of finding a lost pearl, because it was the decoration of his mother and an indispensable thing for the clan. Tamo promised that he would certainly find and return a valuable relic, preventing war. Tamoi appealed to the Emperor of Silver Wolves to be careful and give him time to find a pearl. The mighty wolf promised that he would try to hold back his tribe, but warned that he would not be able to do so for a long time, because younger wolves want blood and consider it necessary to immediately attack the royal capital. Suddenly, during a conversation, little wolves appeared nearby, whose charm was so great that even Tomoe barely held back emotions, and already Ariel had a good time. The Silver Emperor wolves reminded little fluffy animals to stay in place and sit quietly. But the wolves completely neglected him in words and began to run disorderly. The Emperor, betraying the funny situation, explained that it was his children. Tamo only laughed in response, calling the Silver Emperor a wonderful babysitter for babies. The mighty wolf did not deny, and added that these wolves were the future generation of Silver Emperors and his personal pride. Shortly after negotiations with the Silver Wolf Emperor, Timoy and Ariel returned to the royal capital. They joined the main group to appear in front of Hodman and ask him important questions. The Council of Gorman reported how Timoy Saint met with the Emperor and the leader of Grey Wolves. Due to this conversation, it became clear that the only reason from which the Grey Wolves sent a message to the royal capital was in the demand to return their stolen treasures. However, the cunning Godman remembered that it is important to find out what sacrifice is unilaterally required by Silver Wolves. Gormanborg noted that there is a great contradiction in this matter, so it would be great if the Godmen explained the situation. The cunning Godman. Wait, as if he did not understand the essence to win time for reflection. Timoya intervened in the conversation, stating that the only thing that the Fenriari demand is to return the pearl of the Emperor of the Silver Wolf. And the point is really simple. But Godman immediately asked where they could find this pearl, if no one even heard about its existence. Godman continued to insist that he did not know anything about a pearl with this name. However, Timoya has already realized that he was brazenly lying, and offered an exchange. She showed 2 bright balls received from dragons, instead of that pearl. Godman decided to use tricks, and said that he accidentally received 2 pearls, but did not know how to use them correctly, so he decided that it is better to sell them at a favorable price. This information was immediately interested in Godman, and he focused on valuable pearls. Godman did not wait long. Greedy and cunning, he immediately offered to buy pearls, promising to pay Timoy any amount. At first, he offered 1,000 gold coins, but Timoy seemed not enough, and he decided to tease Godman a little. In Moa, I reported that these pearls are rare artifacts, and even 20,000 gold coins for them are too little. Godman immediately began to offer first 50, then 60,000 coins, and in the end, losing his self-control, stated that he was ready to give everything he had for these pearls. The Godman trembled from excitement and a crazy desire to get pearls, and without holding back emotions, he loudly stated that he was ready to immediately give them 120,000 gold coins for them. Timo asked if these pearls were really worth so much. Godman explained that he had weakness to collect rare things, so he has been looking for these pearls for years. Timo agreed to sell them, but only if the Godman would pay the entire amount at once. After receiving the long-awaited pearls, Godman was unspeakably rejoiced and stated that he had finally been able to get them. Meanwhile, Timoy realized that a cunning official got on his hook, and decided that it was necessary to continue to implement his plan immediately. Meanwhile, Timoya gave another opportunity to ask if he really knows nothing about the Pearl of the Silver Wolf Emperor, which Fendriari asked him to return. As you could expect, Godman replied that he had nothing like him, and he has nothing to say about this pearl. The Godman asked Timoya to try to explain to the Silver Wolves that they did not have the necessary pearl, and not their fault. Then the cunning official swore into his rooms, waiting for the night when he tried to activate magical pearls. But no matter how much he made effort, everything was in vain. In the soul, the Godmen cherished the hope of success, because according to legends, collecting pearls and saying magic words at night at the full moon, you can get a huge strength. While Godman tried his best to activate the pearls, Timoya watched everything from above, using his flight ability. It was now obvious that the Silver Wolf Pearl was in the cunning official's possession. Godman was sure that he had collected all the necessary pearls, but Timoya had actually given him the fakes just to find out. In doing so, Godman believed that he possessed the Silver Wolf V's Pearl, the Demon Emperor's Eye Pearl, the Thunder Tiger Emperor's Pearl, the Dragon Emperor's Pearl. Through the use of tricks on valuation and masking values, it was possible to protect them from theft, so God's Proman was easily deceived. With the help of these pranks, it was possible to ensure that God's prophecy becomes the owner of the pearls of Silver Wolves. Timoy decided to temporarily sleep a treacherous official, and simply replace the pearl of the Emperor of Silver Wolves. It succeeded. The gods, waking up, did not notice the replacement, and rejoiced that all the pearls are in their place. Timoy, having obtained the right artifact, decided that it was time to return the pearl to the Emperor of Silver Wolves and stop the enmity, which at any moment could develop into a real war. Suddenly, the pearl, which was in his hands, disappeared, and the virtual system of Isis reported the successful absorption of pearls of Silver Wolves. Due to this, Timoy won the title of Emperor of Silver Wolves and increased his combat force by 50%. He could now manage the Wolves clan and get the leader's ability, raising a total fighting to 250,000. Tomoya asked what all this means, but Isis confessed that he did not know the answer. Usually Kaiser pearls should not be absorbed if nothing is known. Tomoya was upset about what had happened, and now he could not understand how to apologize to the Silver Wolves. Tomoya wondered if it was possible to remove the pearl because it did not need it. But Isis explained that this process is irreversible, and the pearl can only be reached after the owner's death. She did not know any other ways to get rid of the artifact. Having realized this, Tamo realized that the only thing he stayed was to apologize to the Silver Wolves. Tomoe realized that Silver Wolves are unlikely to destroy it immediately, but should be prepared for any punishment. After all, he violated the agreement, and now cannot return the pearl. Sinking into the night forest, Tamo suddenly felt the smell of fresh blood, immediately warned that it could be hazardous and advised to be especially careful. After a few minutes, it became clear even without a virtual assistant that Timoy was in a full environment. Meanwhile, Isisa reported that a magic barrier was installed around the place, which makes it impossible to escape. One of the white wolves suddenly clung to Moai's hand, instantly spoiling the impression of the meeting. The guy immediately applied magical treatment to stop the bleeding as soon as possible. Tamoya realized that he had lost vigilance. White wolves did not stop any protective barriers. Their attack ignored the whole difference in status. The wolves, aggressively, continued to approach Mo, threateningly approaching. The next moment, rage wolves again attacked Tomoa, using magical abilities this time, from which even a seemingly invulnerable hero would even suffered. Noah felt that during such attacks, his vitality was sharply reduced, so he again used restorative healing. Isida explained that when health falls below 30%, the true effect of the battle race is activated, and the total combat capacity increases to 380,000. I had just realized that his bad anticipation came true, as white and silver wolves became much more aggressive. Meanwhile, the hero was approaching the Imperial Knight of Silver Fenrir 77 with a power of 7,000 and the ability to a large catastrophe. The rest of the flock consisted of a 50-level Silver Fenrir with a battle force of more than 3,000 and the ability to fierce frenzy. Somewhere in the distance, the howl of the Silver Emperor wolves was heard. It did not herald anything good. The Emperor, one of the most powerful, had 100th level and 17,000 combat. In addition, he possessed a special ability called Westerselman. Tamoe suggested that the Silver Wolves may have been cursed as the dragons, which he encountered earlier. This time the Emperor of Silver Wolves looked different. His aggression bordered with madness. Tamoe asked a mighty creature whether she is conscious, and whether they could talk quietly. However, the Emperor of the Silver Wolf stated that they were all cursed, and Tamo should send them to eternal peace of mind. However, he did not want to kill all the beasts, and asked if they could do something to help them return to their normal state. However, the Emperor reassured Tomoya, saying that it was not necessary to worry about it, because it is impossible to return to such a strong oath of animals to normal. Therefore, it was better for them to bend. In addition, the Emperor confessed to the terrible sin, and now he wants to leave this world. Mine felt all the animal pain that the Emperor-crushed wolf suffered and sincerely sympathized with him. The great wolf, struggling with the curse, only through incredible effort retained the clarity of the mind. In the end, Timoy agreed to fulfill the desire of the Emperor, because he sought it. Timoy decided to a desperate step, to send Silver Wolves to relax. Isis activated the Golden Bra, increasing the total battle power 5 times. Tomoya was aware that he was ready, and the Emperor, remaining conscious, expressed his gratitude for his help. These were the last words that he managed to say the mighty wolf leader before he finally lost consciousness. He tried to pounce on Tama, but the hero met the beast with the blow of his blade, ending the suffering of the Emperor. In the air, the bitter smell of fresh blood increased, and Temo, even despite the request of the Emperor's Silver Wolf, sincerely regretted what he did.